Recording by Jill Ingle. The American Book of the Dog. G. O. Shields, editor. Section 4. The American Gordon Setter by Harry Malcolm, President, the American Gordon Setter Club. The origin of this famous breed of setters dates back 89 years ago or more to the Duke of Gordon's castle, whence its great fame as a field dog has spread far and wide. It was from the Duke of Gordon that our favorite derived his name, and but for this nobleman we should never have known or been able to perpetuate this ne plus ultra of handsome setter dogs. About the year 1859 the first specimens of this breed were introduced in England, and were there called the Black and Tan or Gordon Setter. They were bred and shown in England of immense size, and were entirely too heavy in make to please the majority of English sportsmen, and but for the old stock in Scotland, which were merry little workers, and but for the careful breeding of some English and American lovers of field sports, which resulted in getting him back to his proper size for practical field form, we should not today have the handsomest and grandest field dog it has ever been the writer's good fortune to follow afield, day in and day out. Writing of the show bench in England, Stonehenge says, referring to Kent, his grand head and rich color drew general attention to him, taking prize after prize at Cremorne, Birmingham 4 times, Islington twice, Worcester, and Paris. His extraordinary career naturally caused a great amount of jealousy, and he was called by the opposition party a cur, a mongrel, a half-bloodhound, and a dozen other hard names. So convinced, however, was Mr. Pierce of his purity of breeding that he determined to put the matter to the test of experiment, and offered to trust one of his stock, out of Regent, to the care of the writer of this article, to be brought up where he could not possibly see game, and at the proper age, namely 9 or 10 months, to be first introduced to it. The result was in accordance with Mr. Pierce's prophecy, for the puppy not only beat his ground in fine style, but at the end of a few hours' work began to stand his birds as only a well-bred pointer or setter will do, without any artificial education of any kind. Of course, the report of this trial added greatly to Kent's reputation, and being followed by the successes of Rex, the above puppy, at Stafford and Shrewsbury, where he won 3 cups, beating in the final trial Mr. Field's Duke, an English setter, who had gained a high reputation in previous years. Kent had so strong a run of the stud for several years that it would be difficult at the present day to find a black and tan setter without a strain of his blood. Mr. Pierce's Regent had several large litters by him, including Rex, young Kent, Ewan, Lorraine, Dane, Deal, and Silk, all winners at shows or field trials. I quote the above for the reason that no purebred Gordon's pedigree today can be found that does not trace to Kent and the above-named dogs, and end with such well-known Gordon setters as Lord Bolingbroke's Argyle and Ruby I, or Coward's Sam, Joplin's Nell, or Friday and Fan, Duke of Gordon's Grouse, Duke of Gordon's Nell, or to Zango, Zara, Major, Nep, Drill, or Mopsa. Coming down to the present day, we find that the Gordon setter in America is called, by the opposition, all the hard names they can think of, because some men who breed dogs simply for show breed them to a size that utterly unfits them for field work. In fact, many of these so-called Gordons were not Gordons, but a crossbred dog. Their being black and tan in color was sufficient to mislead the amateur and the unsophisticated judge. Their owners called them Gordons, exhibited and sold them as such, and as a field dog they were a failure. The purebred Gordon had to suffer the odium cast upon him by these impostors, whereas if the amateur had purchased of breeders who could trace pedigrees to the above-named dogs, he would have been a happier and wiser man. A dog who is simply a prize winner, no matter if he is not purebred, or is even gun-shy, or has never seen game, is more valuable by the average mug hunter than the finest field dog in the country. The bench shows were to blame, in a measure at least, for this state of affairs, in having only one class in which this breed could enter, and that for black and tan setters, when in fact they should have had a class for Gordon setters, and the black and tan should have been in the crossbred or English class. To remedy this evil and save the Gordon setter from the odium that was being cast upon him by having to be entered in the same class with the black and tan, causing the best specimens of the Gordon setter to be kept at home for many years, the field sportsmen and lovers of the purebred Gordon setter met and formed a club known as the American Gordon Setter Club. We went before the American Kennel Club, requesting them to give us a class in the stud book for our purebred dogs, and to call this strain the American Gordon Setter. Our request was granted, and in the future, none but a dog with a pure Gordon Setter pedigree can be registered as an American Gordon Setter. The crossbred dog, who depended upon his black and tan color to deceive the public, has now to be registered in the crossbred class. The success of the American Gordon Setter Club in this matter has saved one of the best strains of field dogs from utter ruin. So the strain of dog that was known at the Duke of Gordon's castle as the Gordon Setter, and in England as the Black and Tan Setter, are now known in America as the American Gordon Setter. The Gordon Setter, as seen at Gordon Castle, was undoubtedly black and tan, and black, white, and tan. Many of the best bred Gordon dogs throw, in their litters, pups with a toe or two marked with white, or with a white frill on same. A litter a few years back without some white was rare, but by careful breeding, and by breeding only from those with the least possible white, in time we shall see Gordons without a white hair on them. I never cast aside a puppy that is nicely made, even now, if he has white on chest, although I prefer them without it, and hope soon to have litters with no other markings than black and tan. Following is the standard adopted by the American Gordon Setter Club, and all who wish to advance the increasing popularity of the Gordon are breeding up to it. Value of points: head, including muzzle and nose, 15. Eyes, ears, and lips, 5. Neck, 5. Shoulders and chest, 15. Back, loins, thighs, and stifles, 15. Legs, feet, elbows, and hocks, 15. Stern and flag, 8. Color and markings, 8. Texture of coat and feather, 6. Symmetry and quality, 8. Total, 100. Skull. The skull should be lighter than the old type of Gordon setters, as was usually seen at bench shows. Must be clean cut, with occiput well defined, and a decided stop below the eyes. And from eye to occiput should be from 5 to 5.5 inches in length. Muzzle. The muzzle must be straight from eyes to end of nose, without any inclination to what is termed Roman nose, and without coarseness. It should be from corner of eye to end of nose 4 inches in length. Nostrils must be full and wide, and nose black in color. Jaws should be exactly even in length. A snipe nose or pig jaw is a decided blemish. Eyes, ears, and lips. Eyes must be of medium size and a deep brown in color, mild and intellectual in expression. Ears should be set low on head and lie flat to the cheeks, without any tendency to prick. Should be longer than in other breeds of setters. They must be thin in leather and must be well coated with fine silky hair, with as little wave as possible. The hair should extend an inch or two below the leather. The lips should be slightly pendulous, a trifle more so than in other breeds of setters. Neck. The neck should be of good length, clean and racy, with gradual rise from shoulders to head, and slightly inclined to arch. Should be almost free of leather, but is not expected to be as clean on underside as a pointer's. Shoulders and chest. The shoulders should be deep, with moderately sloping blades, should be strong and positively free of lumbar, and showing great liberty. The chest must be flat between the forelegs, moderately deep and narrow, giving the animal a racy appearance in front. The ribs must be well sprung behind the shoulders, but not sufficient to give the animal the appearance of being too round in barrel, and should extend well back toward the hips. Back, loins, thighs, and stifles. The back should be short and straight, with loins strong and slightly arched. Any tendency to sway back being decidedly objectionable. Thighs must be strong, with the muscle extending well down toward the hocks. The stifles should be moderately well bent and set somewhat wide apart. They should be long from point of hip to hock joints. Legs, feet, elbows, and hocks. The forelegs must be straight and sufficiently strong in bone, with elbows standing close to the chest, but not under it. Hind legs to conform in bone with the forelegs. They should be moderately bent. Hocks must be straight. The feet must be round, hard, arched, and well padded, with hair between the toes. The cat foot should have the preference. Stern and flag. The stern should be set on slightly below the line of back and carried in a very nearly straight line from the body. The straighter the better. A teapot tail is a decided blemish. When carried down with the hand, it should not reach below the hock joint. Should taper gradually from the body to a sting-like end. The flag must be fine and straight, any inclination to curl or ropiness being objectionable. It should taper to nothing at the end. Color and markings. The color should be a rich, glossy plum black, with deep sienna or dark mahogany, tan markings, clearly defined, and without admixture of black, though a little penciling of black on the toes is admissible. The tan should show on lips, cheeks, throat, spot over eyes, underside of each ear, on front of chest, on feet and legs, also at vent, but must not extend into flag more than 3 inches. The tan should show nearly to elbows on inside of forelegs, and to the hocks or above them on the inside of hind legs. An American Gordon setter with a white frill must not be cast aside, but aim to breed them with as little white as possible. A good dog must not be disqualified for having white as above described. Any white on feet or tail is a blemish. Texture of coat and feather. The coat should be fine and flat, any inclination to curl being objectionable, though a slight wave is admissible. The feather should be about the same in quality as in the English setter, running down 2 feet on forelocks and to hocks on hind legs, but only slightly feathered below the hocks. Symmetry and quality. The American Gordon setter should display much character. The general outline must look the thorough workman all over, and must absolutely be without lumber. He should be very blood-like in appearance, combining great quality with symmetry. The weight of my dogs is from 45 to 50 pounds. Height at shoulder 20 to 24 1/2 inches. My bitches are less in height and less in weight. If you increase the above height or weight, you will have a dog that is a labor to himself and forever in your way. The weight given above makes a good-sized dog, and you can take 2 of them with you in your light top buggy for a hunt or a run. My advice to all is not to breed them larger than the size above described. You will find them just what you desire in looks. The following pedigree is of the writer's American Gordon setter, Whip, whose service has been largely sought after. He has been bred to many of our best American Gordon setter bitches, as well as to imported bitches. This pedigree will be found a valuable guide in selecting pure blood. It traces to the best bred and best known field setters that ever lived in Scotland, England, and America. And the blood of the dogs mentioned in it is distributed from Maine to California. Whip's descendants are owned by gentlemen who keep them to shoot over, and some who have cared to exhibit them at bench shows have won with them. Some in the pedigree have been winners at field trials abroad. The Gordon setter Gordon won second at a field trial in America and was justly entitled to first. Ere long, when their owners make up their minds to run them in public field trials, you will see them go to the front with ease. I never have shown or run one at a public trial. but have hunted them in private, in the best of company, with setters of other strains, and have never seen them beaten. Nor do I believe the setter or pointer lives that can work with them, in all kinds of cover and over all kinds of ground, and defeat them in a long hunt. I keep my dogs for my own shooting, for pleasure, and to enjoy with them, alone or with my personal friends, the pleasures of the field in the brilliant autumn time, the most brilliant time of all, when the gorgeous woods are gleaming ere the leaves begin to fall, when the maple boughs are crimson and the hickory shines like gold, when the noons are sultry hot and the nights are frosty cold, when the country has no green but the sword grass by the rill, and the willows in the valley, and the pipe upon the hill, when the pippin leaves the bough, and the sumac fruit is red, and the quail is piping loud from the buckwheat where he's fed. Pardon my digression, my friends, but the mention of autumn stirs the fire that is within me, and ever turns my thoughts afield, and to the above beautiful lines, from the pen of that gifted sportsman, Frank Forrester. I live from year to year to enjoy the pleasures that I find afield. In the early years of my life, I hunted over the old native English setters and pointers, but I believe that, in view of the scarcity of game today, that the hard work the dogs of this age have to do to find 6 or 8 coveys of quail in a day, the old-time setter would not be of much service to us now. The birds are smarter and harder to find. They scatter when flushed into the thick cover. The old-time setter had no such work to do as our dogs of this age. So I do not hesitate to say that the old-time setter is a dog of the past, and alongside our keen-nosed, nimble-footed Gordon would cut a sorry figure. I never have gone afield with a dog that has given me so much genuine satisfaction in every way as do my Gordons. I have hunted them in the best of company for days, but have never yet seen any of them stand up to their work for so long a time, day in and day out, as the Gordon setter. Neither have I ever seen his equal in nose, obedience, staunchness, and speed. When the nature of the ground will permit it, he is one of the fleetest dogs of the setter breed. At his work, he is naturally a high-headed dog, always seeking for the body scent of his game. When the weather is such as to require it, he is quick to take the foot scent as well. His natural instinct is developed in a marked degree, and it leads him to know where to look for his game, without the racing over ground that is characteristic of setters of other strains. I have ever found them easily broken, and they never forget, when once taught, what is required of them. You can shoot over them the first of the season with as much pleasure as at the end. The American Gordon setter has never taken part in public trials, except on 1 or 2 occasions in America. The reason is that they have never been owned by those who cared for yearly field trials, or for a test of so short a duration. Most of those who run dogs at yearly trials own either Llewellyn setters or pointers, and select judges from those who own the same breed. And Gordon setter owners have been well aware that in running their dogs under them, they would have a poor show. The field trial advocates are preparing to organize yearly trials, in which each brace of dog are to be run 8 hours. They should have for these trials judges from all the setter strains and pointer men also. This would, I think, with their 8-hour heats, bring out more dogs than ever have been seen at any of the 35-minute heat trials in the past. Keep your dogs well exercised, for no dog, unless he is, will keep in health. A dog that is properly exercised will not, after your first day's hunt, be running to heel, but on the contrary, will do all the work you may require of him, no matter whether for a week or a month. My way is to have my dogs follow me in my drives for miles. I give them but gentle exercise in the summer, not over 6 miles in the round trip, and over a route where they can find plenty of water from the streams. After October 1st, I run them from 14 to 20 miles every other day. This puts them in fine condition to shoot over. Never have them too fat, nor so thin that you can see through them, but in that happy medium state, so that they look and feel like they could go for months, and with a will and vim of their own. I will now take you back to their puppyhood, and give you some advice which, if you will follow, and provided you have the kind of dogs that I have described, you will have a dog as handsome as a picture to look upon, a devoted companion, a dog that can do your work afield as long as you care to hunt him, or that will follow your wagon in giving him exercise as long as you care to drive. Always make it a rule in breeding a bitch to have her in whelp when some of our game birds are in season, so that you can shoot over her and let her enjoy the pleasure of finding game. Never breed a bitch, no matter how handsome she may be, unless she is broken and has shown all the requirements of a first-class field dog. The same rule applies to a bitch must apply to the dog. Never, under any circumstances, breed to a dog or bitch simply because they have won several prizes at bench shows. I have known some of the bench show champions to be the vilest duffers afield, some so gun-shy that the sight of a gun would make them run for miles to get to a place of hiding. This I know to be a fact, and it is true of some of the winning Gordon, English, and Irish setters as well as of pointers, so be careful in your selection of sire and dam. When your bitch is in whelp, give her gentle exercise each day, up to the day she is due to whelp. Feed her on soft food, a little raw beef liver each day, up to the time she whelps. After whelping, give her boiled rump beef, soup, vegetables, and table scraps. Feed her well. When the puppies are about 9 or 11 days old, their eyes will open. When they are 4 weeks old, begin to feed them, as it helps to take the strain off the mother and helps them to gain strength. You will almost see them grow. At this age, if there are symptoms of worms, as there are likely to be, give each puppy half a teaspoonful once a day for 3 days of Fry's vermifuge. After giving it for 3 days, try them about 2 weeks later to see if the worms are cleaned out of them, and you will be surprised to see healthy-looking puppies that you thought had none pass worms in great knots. These worms cause the death of over 3/4 of all puppies that die. I have never lost a young puppy in my life, all owing to care and looking well after this worm pest. Next, look well to lice and fleas. I use thymocresol, called also cold water dip. It is a great disinfectant and is not poisonous. Cures all skin diseases, and I use it in mange with universal success. You can get it of your druggist. Use it in the following manner. When practical, use soft, rain, pond, or river water. Dilute to the required strength. Always pour the water quickly upon the thymocresol and not the thymocresol upon the water. In winter, protect it from frost, and before using, shake the can. If it does not mix well with cold water, mix it with warm water first, and then add cold to the required proportion. The proportions in which the thymocresol should be diluted with water for various purposes are indicated. A large teaspoonful of thymocresol to a pint of water, or a pint of the thymocresol to 12 gallons of water, makes a strength of about 1 to 100. This quantity will do to wash 6 or 8 puppies. Then mix a new lot for any more puppies you may wish to wash. When you have dipped them in and rubbed it well, take them out and dry them. After 2 applications, you will find all the lice and fleas have been destroyed. When they are 8 weeks old, wean them, take the bitch to new quarters, and use the following mixture, rubbing it well into her breast. Iodide of potassium, 2 drams. Soap, liniment, and oil of camphor, each 2 ounces. Examine the bitch's breast each day and draw off all milk with the fingers that you can. In a few days, she will be in proper shape to work and will be dried up nicely. When you have for several weeks fed your puppies on boiled grits or boiled oatmeal and a little cooked meat twice a week, and they have learned to eat well and take care of themselves, send the brace or braces you may wish to keep to someone you know in the country to raise for you. It may cost you a few dollars each month, but you will be well repaid in the hardy growth of your puppies. Wherever you send them, have it distinctly understood that you wish them to run loose, as your desire is to develop every bone and muscle in them. When they are about 10 months old, bring them home, and after the youngsters have learned to know you and show by their actions they have accustomed themselves to the change and to the whistle, teach them to drop and follow well to heel, which you will find a great comfort to you when you walk them. Then take them in your buggy when you drive. that they may get accustomed to the motion of the wagon. Never feed old or young dogs just before you go out to exercise. When over their first seasickness, as it were, make them drop the moment you put them in the buggy and keep them down until you are ready to let them out for a run. Nothing is more annoying to me when I bundle into a wagon on a shooting trip with a friend than to have him say his dog is never ridden, and in a few moments to have him vomit all over the floor. Or if he has not ridden before and is not broken to drop in the wagon, but to be all over it, head on the reins and in your lap. I prefer to get out and walk. Hence this advice as to training dogs to ride. As soon as your puppies have been well broken to ride and drop in the wagon, take one of your old standbys out with you and your brace of puppies. Let them out on the road for a run of a mile on the first trip, being careful to select roads but little traveled until your puppies have learned to keep away from passing wagons. You must drive slowly, being careful that you do not run over them. They soon learn to follow well, and in a short time you can give them good, long, and fast spins with the older dogs. Never run a puppy until you tire him. It makes him sluggish. Your next move is to take him afield with one of your broken dogs to find game. For, of course, you are anxious to fully determine whether his nose is as fine as you have thought from your early observations in watching him find his food when thrown in the tall grass, and the several little things you have seen him do, such as, when running on the road, to suddenly stop and turn and hunt out a bone, or scent a barnyard hen. All these little things are indicative of a good nose, and to fully satisfy yourself before making any further move in his education is the reason you wish to see him on game. I have put down many a puppy on game that at once began to range, and with tail action of the very best style, find and point. I love a lively tail action, and the best field dogs I ever saw all had it. After your old dog has found game, call your puppy to you with a whistle. If he is not then on point with the old dog, he may go in and flush, but let him alone. Remember, you are not out to break him, only to test his nose. When the birds are scattered and the old dog stands, you will probably see him swing into his first point, at a distance from his game that will convince you he is the dog you wish to break. If, however, you go out once or twice before your youngster gives you any indication of nose, do not be discouraged. You may see it later. If not, after dozens or more trials, under favorable circumstances, I should get rid of him. It is seldom in the Gordon family that you see a well-bred, well-raised puppy, but what will stand his game on the first day's trial, and most of them show excellent noses at a very early age. I knew a Llewellyn setter, imported by a personal friend of mine in this city, direct from Mr. Llewellyn, that was placed in the hands of one of the most successful field trial handlers in Tennessee. He worked his hardest to develop the dog, which was then about 15 months old, but returned him as being no good. When this dog was over 2 years old, he turned out quite a fine worker. He was one of the late developing kind. I have never seen this in any Gordon setters. While you had your puppy out, of course, you shot over him to see that he was not gun-shy. While on this subject, I will state that of all the dogs I have raised to shoot over in my life, I have never yet had one prove gun-shy. My success has been owing to my never breeding to anything but well-broken dogs, and in not breeding to an unbroken bench show dog simply because he won prizes, was handsome, and had a fashionable pedigree. Nor have I ever permitted my bitch to whelp under a barn, and I not see her litter until they were running around. From the day your puppies are whelped, you should have access to them, and accustom them to your presence as soon as they can see, to all noises you can make in their hearing. Take them out with you as soon as large enough to follow, and fire several charges from your gun while they are romping about you. After each time you fire, call them to you, fondle and romp with them, and you will soon see, when you show the youngsters the gun, how delighted they will be to join you in your tramps, and also how pleased they are to smell powder. As regards breaking, my method is the same as most all sportsmen use, and I will not enter into it for fear of tiring my readers. I will simply say, if you wish to break your own dog, buy Modern Training, Handling, and Kennel Management by B. Waters. My advice to young sportsmen is to get a first-class trainer to break their dogs, if they can afford it. And when he is nearly finished, request the trainer to give them a week's instruction on how to work the dogs after they are broken. The Gordon Setter I have always found to be one of the hardiest, and if well housed and fed, they seldom require medicine. I hardly know what distemper is with them, for I have not had a puppy or grown dog afflicted with it for over 12 years, and then it was contracted by coming in contact with a road dog while exercising. My bitch June lived until she was 13 1/2 years old. Malcolm died at 11 1/2 from inflammation in the bowels caused by swallowing a bone. A few months before he died, I hunted him for several days, and his nose was fine, and his speed and endurance were just as good as when he was 5 years old. The Gordon Setter is game in all his work. He's willing to face the stoutest briars, or retrieve his game even if he has to go through a skim of ice. Many a bird have they brought me that fell on the opposite side of a stout stream in midwinter, and they did it with as much determination as they showed in retrieving woodcock in summer. When starting out for a 2-week trip, take with you about 75 pounds of cornmeal and 20 pounds of beef flour. This will be all you require to feed a brace or two on during your stay. Take of the cornmeal 5 pounds and a teacup of the beef flour. Mix well before you wet the meal. Then wet and mix and have baked nicely in bread cakes. Feed it cold. In the morning, feed lightly, but on your return before you let them go to rest, feed them strongly. If you do not feed before they are kennelled, they will not eat well, for the reason that, when once put away, they prefer rest to food. If you can, in the section where you are shooting, secure some raw, fresh beef or mutton, give them a good feed twice a week. Rest assured, if your dogs are well fed, they will do twice the work for you that could possibly be gotten out of them if half starved. At the same time, do not overfeed. Never feed them on salt meat while on your shooting trips, for if you do, you will have them filling themselves to overflowing with water, and this will spoil your day's shooting. When on your trip, if you ride to your shooting grounds, see that the wagon floor is well covered with dry hay or straw. Put your dogs in, both going and returning, thus saving them all you can, and see how they will tuck themselves away in the straw on your way home. When you arrive home and feed them, take them at once to your room. Spread your dog blanket, which I presume you have taken with you, before the fire. Let them dry well or thaw out, as the state of the weather may require. Take a comb and get off all the burrs, especially under the shoulders, and look the toes over to see that no burrs or dried or frozen mud are left there. I prefer to always keep my dogs in my room at night, and will not stop at any house where I cannot do so, unless it be at a friend's home. By following the above instructions, you will find your dog as fresh as you would wish them the next morning. They will be with you until a good old age, and no rheumatism will you see in them at any time. If you wish your dogs to always look well in coat, wash them well all over with Spratt's dog soap, rubbing it well in with a stiff root brush, such as is used for brushing a horse's mane. This makes a lather and will kill every flea on them. Commence this washing in May and have it done every 3 weeks until about October 15th. Then you are rid of fleas on them all winter. When you have finished soaping them in about 10 minutes, give them a swim or rinse to get the lather off. Their coats will then look as sleek as though you had oiled them. During the winter, once or twice a week, have them brushed well from head to heel with the same kind of root brush mentioned above. Give the exercise as directed, and you will see dogs in coat, muscle, and health that will please the most fastidious sportsman and fancier. If these instructions are carried out to the letter, you can dispense with your medicine case. If you cannot keep, feed, and give your dogs your personal attention, you had better not keep any. Never forget to permit your dogs to have free access to grass. They use it for any ills they may have. In regard to preparing your dog for a bench show, each exhibitor has his own way. I am aware that much is done in the way of doctoring coat, etc. But if many exhibitors would pay more attention to exercise and developing of the muscle, you would not see so many fat, flabby, undeveloped dogs in bone or muscle of all breeds of field dogs at shows. I like to see them enter a ring before me in perfect racehorse order, as hard in muscle as is possible to get them, not looking like they were too weak to stand, or so fat that one would suppose they were for the butcher. I will here describe a hunt I participated in one September, about 9 years ago, with several friends. I left Baltimore, Maryland, my home and birthplace, about the 28th of August. We started for the prairies of Iowa, 500 miles west of Chicago, on the Chicago and Northwestern Railway, for 3 weeks' absence, which gave us about 12 days shooting. We took our tent and a full camping outfit. In the way of dogs, we had Irish and English setters, one black pointer, and one lemon and white pointer. I had my brace of Gordons, Malcolm and June. We were on the road 3 days and nights and arrived at our destination at 3 a.m. My friends all retired for a few hours' rest, but I remained up and made arrangements with a liveryman to be at the hotel at peep of day. When he arrived, myself and 2 dogs boarded, and was soon tucked into the straw at the bottom of the wagon, my friends preferring to breakfast and follow later. In an hour we reached a nice-looking stubble field. I ordered a halt and alighted, the dogs following suit. They were ordered on. June had been on chickens before, but Malcolm had not. In about 10 minutes I saw them both make game, and in a moment draw on and make a fine point. I flushed and killed a brace, and in a little over an hour had 10 chickens, all killed over points to these 2 dogs, and they had not made an error. It is needless to say that after such a journey, such a performance, I was justly proud of my pets. This has been my experience with my Gordons every year. On woodcock, snipe, quail, or ruffed grouse, I have found them always reliable, staunch, and obedient. I have hunted them in several states, over hill and dale, through briar patches, and in dense forests, in fact, wherever the birds would seek refuge, and never yet have I seen them flurried in the least. They are in appearance and in nature the gentleman's dog, both to shoot over and as a companion at his home. They are of the most affectionate disposition to home folks, but are watchful when a stranger is about. On one occasion in Caroline County, Virginia, in 1878, I had arrived home and dressed for supper after a hard day's tramp in the month of December. My room had an open wood fire. My dogs were spread out in front of it. I closed my door and went down to supper. A gentleman from Richmond who was stopping at the same house for a few days, knowing me, went into my room to warm up inside and out. The dogs let him in, but when he started to go out, he was halted by them, and not until he had called me from the supper table did he get out. And if I had been out of the house, he most certainly would have had to await my return. I have seen my bitch Gypsy on several occasions, while I have had my birds and traps on the station platform awaiting the train, jump into and clean up a passing dog for attempting to nose my game. I always place my game in the baggage car under the care of my dogs on the floor, and you can rest assured none will be appropriated by the baggage smasher. Gordons make the best yard dogs, and why people will keep a cur when they can have one of these beautiful and faithful animals is beyond my comprehension. In the Gordon setter, one may have a dog to guard his family, playmate for his children, and a dog that will help to keep the larder full. I hope all who may read these lines will find something in them that will be of service and assist them in securing a perfect American Gordon setter. I hope that many a time ere this they have felt that thrill from head to heel when they beheld that brace of Gordon setters on that beautiful point on yonder hill, or have sat on that moss-covered log beside that gurgling brook and caressed them fondly for that masterpiece of work, in having retrieved so well that crippled bird, and without the rumple of a feather that is the cream of existence to the true sportsman. I hope you are all lovers of the charms of woodland scenery, for no man could be a true sportsman unless he is in love with all nature in her rural paradise. I hope you have enjoyed the sportsman's sleep. If you have not seen and enjoyed these pleasures, I am sorry for you do not yet know what pleasure is. The man who is troubled with insomnia will, if he take to the field, find health and sleep.